Hello, everyone. My name is Austin Smitherman. I've given the pleasure to discuss a very important topic, and a very serious one at that. First, I'd like to read you a quote from Fred Rogers. He was an author and most known as a TV show host in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He was a youth activist, and he said on that show, anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. Our topic in this webinar that I'll be discussing with you is that our youth needs mandated mental health education. In K through 12 schools at varying levels, they need to have education and they need to learn about this growing issue that I'm going to teach you about in this very webinar. So throughout this webinar, we're going to discuss three different main topics on this issue, rather. Number one, we're going to talk about the issue, the overall issue. What is mental health? How many is it affecting? What's its difference? What's its challenge? What's it hurting? Second, we're going to look at schools today or within the last decade of what is happening in those schools already. What's the current state of our problem? And then finally, we're going to talk about the benefits that having mandated education will have in our K through 12 schools. So first, we're going to read a couple statistics from Learning Policy Institute. In 2023, they did a study with high schoolers, a group of high schoolers, asking them how many percent of you have feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Now, the answer was 40%. I think that's a very large number. 40% felt these feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Now, alone the word sadness and hopelessness, what are these words? Maybe they're little words. They won't grow into much. Sure, every high schooler struggles. What if this is just one of those struggles? It's easy to think that until you read the following statistic. Nearly 20% of our youth overall had considered suicide. They thought about it. And 9.5% attempted suicide. This is very scary numbers. So many people, so many of our youth have these feelings that develop in high school or earlier. They grow and they hurt more, till eventually they get to that point where they're not sure if they can take more pain. What's the treatment? What's our education doing? What is the current climate of this issue that we're discussing here? Well, a poll statistic from the National Alliance on Mental Illness concluded in 2019, only 15% of youth received school mental health services. Now, keep that statistic in mind. 15% of youth received services in school. Now, take that 15% and look at this next one. Of the 20% of children or adolescents experiencing mental health concerns, many never receive care. 15% receive it. 20% of those people who have those issues don't get care. These statistics show us that as you layer on these statistics, this issue becomes more and more blaring. It's a big issue that's affecting so many youth, and our schools are ill-equipped to handling this issue. Now, what's the benefits of having mental health mandated in education? That's an important question. We're talking about a big change we would be making, and so it is important to understand what the benefits are. As a society, we should know this. I'm going to discuss 4 little bullet points, and I'll elaborate on each one. First one is enhancing knowledge. What does that mean? Well, enhancing knowledge takes the youth that is struggling and teaches them, well, what's wrong with me? More specifically, what am I struggling with? What does it mean? How can I learn about it? How can I learn from it? Next, as our education teaches, grows that knowledge, enhances that knowledge, then the stigma against that mental health education, against mental health, reduces. Oftentimes, people in high school will think that, oh, I have these issues, but they don't want to talk about those issues with anyone because it'll make them an outcast. And those are the very people who fit into the statistic of thinking about and attempting suicide. Couple other bullet points, real quick, is again teaching mental health, mandated, will develop coping skills. This goes quite hand in hand with increasing our knowledge. Coping skills is part of that increasing knowledge and teaches us what coping skills we need to develop, what our youth will develop. Coping skills are very personal to each person, so therefore cannot be figured out by just a simple pamphlet, but has to be on one-on-one with a person, with a professional, with someone who knows in our education system, just as much as a high schooler might struggle with math and go into a math classroom to ask a question, to get information, to receive help. All these statistics, growing knowledge, reducing stigma, developing coping skills, what does that do? Well, that grows their future. That will grow the future of our youth, giving them all the things they need, setting them up for success in a world that oftentimes can be unforgiving. This sets them up to be able to handle those things, lead with kindness, empathy, and compassion. So what did we talk about? What's this recap? Students must mandate mental health education for our youth. For decades, it's been a suggestion that we should maybe talk about it, maybe teach it a little bit. But still, so many don't get it. They don't get mental health services in their schools. So many struggle. And so many nearly die from it, not counting those who truly do. This will benefit our youth now and in the future. I discussed the now part. What's the future mean? Discussing and having mandated mental health education in our schools set our future for success. Our youth now will grow up and work all the different types of jobs, politics, white collar, blue collar workers. They will have kids of their own. They will learn how to see mental health issues. This is an investment now and our future. I'd like to leave you with a quote. I've given you statistics, I've talked about a few things, but in the end, not everything that needs to be said might be said here. And you might walk away with questions of, did that statistic he brought up make me feel something? Is that a real issue he's talking about? And what can I do about that issue? I'd like to read you one more quote from Fred Rogers, where he said, "Anyone who does anything to help a child in his life is a hero." We're not talking superheroes, we're talking everyday hero. Someone who looks at a child and puts them, that child, above their own, of their own selves. This is something that our society needs to stand up against and make change, because change is how you be that hero. We need to make